Kakalosh Boker Tov, we're going to be continuing on Daf Tzadi Amud Aleph, 90A1. I'm going to share the screen with you. Here you see it. This is picture 950. Okay, if you see it over there, the Gemara says, By Rami Bar Chama. Rami Bar Chama comes and he asks the following question. Shte amot begag ushte amot be'amud mahu. Are you allowed to come and take 2 amot? Are you allowed to carry 2 amot within the gag? And then 2 amot, right, with the amud. Because look, here you have the amud. The amud is a pillar in the Reshut Rabim. Remember that any type of a pillar in the Reshut Rabim has to be 10 tfachim tall, minimum. Here it's obviously much more to get to the gag. And 4 by 4. This automatically makes it into a Reshut Rabim. Now this area, which is the roof, is considered like a Carmelit. So the question is, what Rav is trying to come and he's trying to ask is, according to the rabbis, that they say gagugas, that agaga samuch legagot acherim, that one roof close to other roofs, you're allowed to meet mitaltel only for a mot, because since it's open up to all the other roofs. Remember, look in this picture. You have 1 house, 2 houses, 3 houses, and all the roofs are attached. So since all the roofs are attached, you only have 4 amot. So it says, is it permitted to be metaltel from the gag to the amud, which is in the Reshut Rabim right beside it, and it's going to be the 10 tfachim tall in the 4 by 4 tfachim, because basically now what you're doing is you're doing the 4 amot, but you have 2 amot in the gag and 2 amot in the Reshut Rabim, which is basically on top of this pillar over here. So the Gemara says, Amar Rabba, Rabba comes and he says, what exactly is the question, right? Why? Carmelitu Reshut Yachid kamibaile. Is the question is, are you allowed to go from a Carmelit to the Reshut Yachid? Remember, this pillar in the Reshut Rabim, once it's 10 tvachim tall and 4 by 4, it becomes a Reshut Yachid. This gag is considered what? A Carmelit. So therefore the question, right? The question that says over here, right, is a completely different halachot over here. So he says, Rami Bar Chama, however, the Rami Bar Chama that he was asking this question, right? Why did he ask this question? Agav churpe lo yemba, because of his charifut, right? He quickly asked the question, which means that he didn't pay attention. Sometimes people are so sharp that they don't think. They quick, boom. 1 second, think. You would have thought, you would have understood beforehand. This was the real question that he was asking. Shte amot begag ushte amot beachsadra. Okay? Which is 952. Yeah? 2 amot in the gag. Remember, this is a gag which is like a Carmelit. Why? Because here, all the houses are all connected. So according to Shitat Rav, they're townhouses. So therefore, what happens is the roof, according to Rav, you only have 4 amot. So now the question is, can I move this from the roof to the achsadra? This is the achsadra. Remember, the achsadra is, it's like a, how did you call it?
Portico.
Portico. Okay.
What?
I don't know.
That's the word they call it. I don't.
Okay. Basically, it's the roof of a type of a
Sukkah.
Well, if you want to call it a sukkah, it's basically like a storage place or whatever it is, but this is the achsadra. The achsadra could be any type of a top part of the porch. But here it's basically you're going from the roof to the roof. Okay, so you got 2 amot here and 2 amot there. Are you allowed to?
A roof that doesn't cover a building where somebody's sleeping.
Exactly. So that's why here you have, whether it's wood or whether it's other things. It's like a patio or a balcony.
No, not house, kind of. The opposite of house.
Yeah, well, again, usually the chsadra that we always brought down was in front of the houses.
Exactly.
Meaning in front of the houses, they had this type of a roof, right? And that was the chsadra. Okay? So it says over here, "Shte amot begag ushte amot b'chsadra mahu." Are you allowed to do such a thing? Because at the end of the day, you're going 4 amot, right? But you're doing 2 amot in your gag and 2 amot in the chsadra. Okay? So says the Gemara, "Mi amninan do we say, Kevin de lo hay chazi ledira v'lo hay chazi ledira." Since the gag, the roof of the house is not fitting for living quarters, and the achsadra, the top of the achsadra is not fitting for living quarters, chad reshutahi, it's all the same reshut, right? And therefore you're allowed to carry from one to another. Or dilmar, do we say, if you're going to prohibit from one roof to another roof, migag l'achsadra nam yasis, so it should also be prohibited from the gag to achsadra, should be the same thing. So Baye Rav Bevai Barabaye. So now a very similar safek that Rav Bevai Barabaye had also a doubt. Shte amot begag u'shte amot bechruba mahu. What about 2 amot begag and 2 amot in the khurba? Okay, this is another picture of the chsadra.
Number?
No, 953 is another picture of an chsadra. It's the same type of an idea. Here's the picture. The picture is now 954. Bet amot begag and bet amot bechurba. So here you have 2 amot, and this is the khurba. Remember, ruins are khurba. And here you have 2 amot in the roof. So what's halacha? Are you allowed to go and take within 4 amot, which 2 of them are going to be in the house and 2 of them are going to be into his friend's house, which is the ruins, or not? Because that's like a karmelit.
What are the 2 amot you're talking about?
No, you're allowed only to transfer 4 amot. Okay? Again, not according to Shmuel, but Shmuel says you can use the entire roof.
Okay.
Right, but according to Rav, you could only transfer 4 amot because since they're all connected, so therefore you only have 4 amot.
Okay.
So now if you're only allowed to 4 amot, what am I allowed to do 2 amot here and 2 amot in a different place? No. Obviously, if they made an Eruv, then there's nothing what to talk about.
And those they're connected, or is just 2 roof?
It's true.
Nothing to do with
Space
that.
between them?
Which one?
No, that's
The 2 roof, the
not
room
that
and
it's
the
basic.
are they
It's
separated or
things
does it
that are
make a
That's a
difference?
very good
evident
question.
to you. I missed the big picture.
In the pictures, it doesn't look like there's any space between them. If you look, whether it's in the chsadra, whether it's in the other chsadra, whether it's in the khurba, it's mashma that it's right beside it. Maybe because of the concept of the gud achid that we don't say the gud achid that they're all connected.
That's the error.
Well, that's what he's asking.
That roof.
Yeah, is it the same thing or not?
That's what we're trying to establish.
So the Gemara says, here it says in the footnote that the safek of Rashi is, are you allowed to be metaltel in the khurba itself? Meaning not like the achsadra that the safek was, are you allowed to take it from the gag to the achsadra, right? But again, Tosafot is learning the exact same thing. The exact same like the previous. So basically I'm going, right, but this is according to, you see, it says it here on the bottom of the picture, 954. Inside the khurba, not on the roof of the khurba. Fine, next. So says the Gemara, yeah, Amar Rav Kahana, says Rav Kahana to Rav Bevai, Lava Hainu de Rami Bar Chama, is there not the exact same safek of Rami Bar Chama? At the end of the day, what's the difference between a gag and an achsadra and a gag and a khurba? It's the same thing. So Amar Rav Bevai Barabai, says Rav Bevai Barabai to Rav Kahana, Yechi me'acher, right, atai unzai. What, are you coming to some ask questions that you heard from someone else? From Rami Bar Chama? Right? My question is not the same as Rami Bar Chama. Achsadra lo chazya ledira. Khurba chazya ledira. The achsadra, right, is not fitting for a person to live inside of an achsadra. Meaning you don't live in an achsadra, but khurba, right, technically you could. Yeah, you fix it up a little bit, now you can live in it. Achsadra, you can't live in a, right? Some people live all year round in a khurba. You understand? So it all depends. So he says, so my Kabbalah, so 1 second, if you're going to tell me that you actually live there, so then what's the question then? If you can live inside of it, so what's the question, obviously? So he says, no, imtin salomar kamar. It says, if you want to say, imtin salomar if you're going to tell me that the reason why you're not allowed to is because an achsadra, right? It says, the reason why you would be allowed to on top of the achsadra is because it's not fitting for a dirah, khurba chazil dira. Do we say that the khurba is chazil dira and therefore it should be a surah? Maybe you're going to say hashtamiya lebaydirin, but nobody actually lives in there physically right now. So take we don't have an answer. So you're right. So lemaskana we do not know. Okay.
Living right now is also we learned that it's not effective. Like the people living in the house when they go on vacation to the Shabbat.
Oh, we said that it is a factor that it has to be people are living there.
No, if I'm not mistaken, it says he gave the evidence of there if he's going to visit his daughter or his son. So they got into the argument to say if it's validity or not. So it wasn't valid because it was like default. So here the default should be also because it's not Aksadra, it's Khurba. Khurba usually do live there. So Nafkamina, the default should be in place, just like there. And that's why they got into the argument. Why is not in default? Because maybe he went to his son. So his son maybe will argue with his daughter-in-law, maybe will come back. So they got into the argument, the default should place or not be placed.
But that's what we're saying. We're saying that only if there's a diurin, if people live there, that's when it's going to be osir. If they don't live there, it's not osir.
But if they leave it temporarily and then he left in that moment, then the default should be like he's living there. So he should be like like it's okay.
No, we said that the person that leaves his house, right, it's only by a goy, that a goy could come back, that we have a problem. But by a Jew, there's not a problem.
So what is the rule?
Then we answered, what about in the same city? So there, in the same city, we made a difference between the son and the daughter in the same city. But if a person leaves, there's nobody living there. Yeah? Gagina Shavin. So this is Gagina Shavin. 1 second. Here it is. Picture 958. Okay, Gagina Shavin, right? Rabbi Meir. When you have Gagim, they're all equal, according to Shitat Rabbi Meir. Okay, which means that you don't have, it's mamash, it's all leveled. Okay, so they're all leveled out over there. According to Shitat Rabbi Meir, he says that everything is one rashut, therefore you're allowed to be mitaltel from one to another. Or Gag Yechidi, according to Rabbanan. This is the second picture, 959. Because in 958, they're all townhouses, or I don't know what you call them exactly. And then on the top, you have one big sharing communal roof. Here on picture 959, it's only one house. So the guy has a mansion here, yeah? And I guess they only had a minhag of making one floor, but you could make, technically this could be the same picture with 3 or 4 floors. And this is on the top, and it's a one house, okay, according to the rabbis. Rav says, Rav says you're allowed to come and be mitaltel in the entire thing. And Shmuel says, you're only allowed to be mitaltel 4 amot. So says the Gemara, 1 second. Rav amar mutal taltel bekulo. You're allowed to be mitaltel in the entire thing. Kashid Rav. It's a contradiction in Rav. Why? Because Rav said a few minutes ago that you only have 4 amot. Right now, I don't know why he doesn't ask the same question on Shmuel.
But Shmuel is doing
exactly. Well, that's why I don't know why he's only asking on Rav. He should also ask the same contradiction in Shmuel, right? But let's see what it says here.
It revolves around the rule of good.
The Gemara is going to say now. What?
The whole thing is going along the problem.
Well, that's answer, Richard.
Okay.
So says the Gemara, right? There's a contradiction in Rav and Rav. Rav 2 minutes ago just told you that you only have 4 amot, and here he's telling you you're allowed to carry the entire thing. So answers the Gemara, Hatam lo minkera mechitzata, hacha minkera mechitzta. What does that mean? In the mikra, in the case above, when we're talking about roofs which are right beside each other, since it's prohibited to be metaltel, right, from one to another, and they're all open, so each one is open to a place which is prohibited to it. So therefore, it's like a karmelit, which is asur to be metaltel. You're only allowed to be metaltel 4 amot. Okay, now even though there is a mechitza in between the houses on the bottom, we do not say gud asik, which means that the walls go upwards, right, to separate between the roofs, because the mechitza is not nikeret to the people on the roofs. Meaning, when you're on the roof, you don't see the mechitza. So we don't say good asik.
There are lines on the roof on 958. Those lines don't exist on 959. Lines?
Yes, but it's not recognizable.
Okay.
That's what he's saying. It's not recognizable.
Okay.
Here in 959, it's all one house, so it's not going to be that. But in 958, they're different houses, but it's not recognizable. Meaning that if you're on the roof, you don't see those mechitzot.
Same ruling then? The same ruling?
No, so then that's what he's saying. He's saying we only say good asik if it's nikar the mechitza. If it's not nikar the mechitza, you don't say good asik. So in the first, that's why in the case above, right, when it's going to be not recognizable, so that's why you only have 4 amot. If it's recognizable, so then you're allowed to carry the entire thing.
And recognizable go by eye or go by measure of distance? There's a ruling.
And again,
I can say yes, you can say no, or we have a rule to go by.
I don't know. Here it says you could see it.
Well, I don't
which
see
picture
it.
shows it has it? Can you see it?
Rabbi,
Which case?
What I'm saying,
Yeah, which picture we can see it?
In this case, right? I don't know why he keeps on saying it's more than a bit of time. Okay, because the Gemara is going to bring it down in a minute.
You understand what I'm saying?
No.
Okay,
I think the answer is objective. It's not.
So that's my question. Is it like a ruling? Let's say it's 10 feet from each other. So, okay, it doesn't matter what you see, what not. I'm just giving an example of 10 amot, not 10 feet. So I'm like, my question is like, there is a ruling of a distance, that's it, tough, like I don't care what you see, what not. Or is it an argumentative? I see, you don't see.
No, I think it's the nikar for everybody. I don't think it's.
So therefore, it has to be substantial evidence, like clearly seeing it.
You see it, 100%.
You see, okay.
כאן גבי גג יחידי לחכמים וגגות, השווים לרבי מאיר, שאין כל בעיה מחמת הפריצה וגגות, אלא רק מחמת הפריצה לרשות רבים מסביב. מחיצות החיצון המבדילו בין הבתים לרשות הרבים, ניכרות לעומדים על הגג.
ניכר.
Yeah. Okay. Fine. So now it says, Shmuel says, Em metaltelim bo el 400. You could only be metaltel 400. Kasha de Shmuel is Shmuel. So the Gemara is going to say, there is a contradiction between Shmuel and Shmuel. Shmuel 2 minutes ago told you you're allowed to carry the entire gag, and now all of a sudden he's telling you you're only allowed to carry 400. So it says the Gemara, Hatam lo avi yotem betzatayim, hacha havi lo yotem betzatayim. Over there, when he permits you to carry an entire gag, that's because it's not a betzatayim. Here we're talking about that it's more than a betzatayim. So because it's such a big
extension,
you know, like a big area or whatever it is, so therefore, v'hani mechitzot lemata avidan, lemalo lo avdinan. So the mechitzot are only done on the bottom and not on the top. So it's like a karpaf, which is a betzatayim, which is not ukaf ledira to live in it. That's why you only have 4 amot. And that is the shitav Shemuel. Okay, so in the previous cases, we are all talking about that you don't have betzatayim, which is a measurement, right, in the roofs. And here you do. So if you do have the betzatayim, so it's like a karpaf that is not there to have, remember, karpaf was where you keep the storage for the wood. But you don't live there. So if you don't live there, you're not allowed to carry more than 4 amot. And that's what he's talking about over here. Okay? Next.
Round holes at the...
By the way, this is the minkara mechitzata, that is going upwards.
Round holes, even though it's beyond Tuseya, he says it works.
Yeah.
You can carry the whole thing.
Here it says it's 1,660 meters.
It's a big size, big area.
Okay, fine. Itmar was stated, sefina. When we're talking about a sefina, boat, which is more than betzatayim. That's what you have here in the picture, 962, and you have more than a betzatayim. Okay? So it says over here, Rav Amar Rav says, Mutal tatel b'kula. You're allowed to carry the entire boat. Shmuel says, Yem metaltel al 400. You're only allowed to carry 4 amot. Rav Amar Mutal tatel b'kula. You're allowed to be metaltel in the entire thing. Says Sadi Amud Bet 90b. He says, Dehai ika mechitzata, because it does have mechitzot. What does that mean? At the end of the day, you have mechitzot in order to live there, right? So therefore, even though it's going to be big, more than a betzatayim, it's like a reshut yechid. Shmuel says, he said, no, but the mechitzot is not there to live, but rather it's just that way the water doesn't come inside, right? And then it's just going to sink the ship, but not to make it mamash a place to live. So because of that, it's like, again, the same thing, a kapaf that has more than betzatayim, and it's not mukaf ledira, meaning you're not supposed to live there, and therefore it's like a karmelit that you're not allowed to carry more than 4 amot. Amar le Rav Chia bar Yosef le Shmuel, it says Rav Chia bar Yosef to Shmuel, hilchata kavatach u hilchata kerav, is halacha like you or like Rav? That means he's asking Shmuel, who's halacha like you or Rav? Amalei, he says hilchata kerav. The halacha is like Rav. Okay, that you're allowed to be metatel in the entire sefina. Okay, so right, that's gadlut, no? You ask a person, is halacha like you or your friend? He says like my friend.
I like it.
Yeah. So Amar of Gidal Amar Chia bar Yosef.
That's halacha lemais in a cruise.
Yeah, hilchata kerav. The Aleph. Tur Shulchan Siman Shin Samech Bet Siv Dalet. Yeah? So Amar Rav Gidal Amar Rav Chia bar Yosef. Says Rav Gidal Amar Rav Chia bar Yosef. Modeh Rav is going to be modeh, right? Shin kefa'al pia, that if you put it on its face, what does that mean? Look at Rashi. Picture 963. Yeah, if you put it upside down. Okay? She metaltelim ba'al 400. You're only allowed to be metaltel 4 amot. Okay, that means even though it's going to be 10 tefachim tall, right, and it's got mechitzot and everything, you only have 4 amot, right? Kefa'al lemai. Says, why are you going to put it upside down? If it's going to be because you're going to live underneath it, so so what's the meaning in gag yechidi? Meaning, this is like became my house. I took a boat, I put it upside down, you have the door, and now let's say you switch everything. I don't know how you would do that, but you switch everything. So now everything's perfect, right? So you're living inside underneath the boat. Yeah? So that's like a gag yechidi. Gag yechidi, even though it was more than a betzatayim, what's the difference? The Rav said you're allowed to be mitatel in the entire thing. So answers the Gemara, Ela shekifal zofta. No, you turned it around in order to put tar on it, right? To put tar on it. The zapet, right? The tachtia, which means that you put the zefet right on the bottom. So that's why he says, so it's not to live there. So therefore, when you're doing that, it says, it's not you're not supposed to live there. So therefore, you don't say right? Even though you would say gudasik, right? It says over here it's not for dira, and therefore it's going to be asur. You only have 4 amot. Ravashi matnila sfina. Ravashi, he taught this question of Ruchia bar Yosef and the answer of Shemuel to do with the sfina, right? So Ravashi, right? This entire Gemara was all talking about a sfina. Ravacha bered Rava was teaching this entire question and answer to do with what? An achsadra.
A pavilion.
Yeah, the pavilion, whatever you want to call it.
Whatever that is.
This trellis, pergola, whatever you want to
Picture
call
number
it.
is that?
964.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, the Hitman was stated. Achsadra bebika. When you have an achsadra in a bika, in a valley, okay, it's an open place. Rav says mutab tatel b'kula. You're allowed to be metatel in the entire thing. Shmuel Amar, and Shmuel says emetaltelim bal arbamot. You're only allowed to be metatel 4 amot. Okay, Rav Amar mutatel b'kula. Rav says you're allowed to be metatel in the entire thing. Amrinan pitikra yorev v'sotem. But I say that the pitikra is yorev v'sotem, which means this tikra, this roof, it goes down and it encloses all the sides. Doesn't actually show it.
Well, you see that beam. That's because it's got that beam.
Yeah, well, the beam, it's going to go, we pretend that it goes downwards, and therefore it encloses the entire thing. Okay? So he says, Shmuel says, you're only allowed to do 4 amot. Why? Because we don't say that it goes downwards. Okay? So it says, 1 second, according to Rav, that you're allowed to be metaltel, right, in the gag, right? That would, because it's like a reshuta yachid. So according to Rabbi Meir, you should be able to be metaltel from a gag to the chatzer then. Okay? So says the Gemara, Gezerah mishum d'Ravitza bar Avdimi. The reason why he says that it's going to be asur is because of the Gezerah of Ravitza bar Avdimi, which means that according to Rabbi Meir, they made a Gezerah on an amud in the reshuta yachid, which is going to be a gavoa asarat fachim, because of the amud in the reshuta rabim. You remember? You remember the picture? Everyone? We had a picture in the reshuta yachid of an amud, right, of a pillar, of a beam, right, of 10 tfachim tall and 4x4. We said there was going to be a sud, even according to Rabbi Meir, to put things on top of it. Why? Because of the reshuta rabim. Which one? I didn't say anything. Well, the reshuta yachid, but it was inside the reshuta yachid. So why is it a sud? It shouldn't be a sud. Why? Because it's inside the reshuta yachid, and it's a reshuta yachid and reshuta yachid. But because if it was going to be in the reshuta rabim, so that's why it was a gezerah. Shmuel liba de rabbanan tell me gag lekarpaf. According to Shmuel, you should be able to. According to the rabbis, you should be able to permit it to transfer, to move things from the gag to the karpaf. Okay, so he says 2 amot and 2 amot because at the end of the day, both of them are going to be karmelites. So why is it going to be a sur? You should be able to carry from a karmelit to another karmelit. So Amar Rava Barula says Rava Barula gezerah shemi pachet gag. So gezerah, maybe the gag is going to become. That's this. That's picture 966. You should be able to carry from this karmelit to this karmelit, right? Which is basically from one to another, but they're both karmelites. So the Gemara says no. The reason why is gezerah shemi pachet gag. Maybe there's going to be the gag will become less, and that it's not going to have a betzah time, and then
become less.
Well, it's going to crush kind of.
Yaktinu gamet bayit. They're going to make the house smaller also. They're going to make the house smaller. Let me see if there's a picture. Yeah, here nifchat gag. Look, over here, oops.
Which one?
The next picture, 967. Look, over here, here you had, the gag was until the end. You see, it's equal, it's even. In this picture, the gag broke. You see?
Oh, I do see that.
That's 967. Okay, so because of that gezerah, and then now it's going to be now less than betzah time.
They knocked down.
Yeah, they knocked down part of the house. So look now, 967 on the top. Now it says pachot mi betzah time, and this one, the karpaf, is yoter mi betzah time. Here, both were betzah time, so therefore they're both going to be karmelites. In this case, this stays a karmelit, but this now becomes a reshuta yachid.
Why?
Because if it's less than a betzah time, it's a reshuta yachid. It belongs to one house, to one person. So this is a reshuta yachid. Only if it's more than a betzah time, so then it's like a karmelit. So asa gemara yachiv, so mi karpaf le karpaf nami lo yitaltel. From one karpaf to another karpaf, also you shouldn't do it. Why? Picture 968. From one karpaf to another karpaf, also you shouldn't be able to carry. Why? Because maybe shami yifchat, which means that it's going to become less. And if it's going to become less, you're not going to have from one karmelit to another karmelit. It's going to be a problem. So answers the Gemara, hata mi mifcha minkra laminta. By a karpaf to another karpaf, if you're going to make it smaller, it's nikar. Okay, you could see it. It's recognizable. Everyone sees it. Hacha, but to do the gag, if you're going, a gag is a roof. By the roof, if right now it's going to break a little bit, it's not nikar because it doesn't have any mechitzot on the gag. So therefore, what happens is you can't really see how much behemet became smaller or not. So because of that, we do make a decree by the gag, by the roof, and not by the karpaf. Amar Rav Yehuda says, when you want to say according to Rabbi Meir, gagin reshut la'atzman, chatzerot reshut la'atzman. If you remember, we already said that according to Shitat Rabbi Meir, the roofs are their own reshut, and therefore you're allowed to be mitatel from one gag to another gag, from one roof to another roof. Right? And we're talking about the kelim, the utensils that were there, or chatzerot to another chatzer, if you remember. This is also Safot. Right? From one chatzer to another chatzer. Right? So basically, he says, Karpifot Reshut Latzman, right? And also, Karpifot are going to be Reshut Latzman. That means, according to Shitat Rabbi Meir, each one, they're all the same. So therefore, you're allowed to be mitatel from one gag to another gag, or one chatzer to another chatzer, or a kapaf to another kapaf. But since they're the same unity, or not the same entity, that's a better word, right? Since it's the same entity, that's why you're allowed to carry it. But according to Chachamim, Tzadik Aleph Amud Aleph, we're just finishing these words. According to Chachamim, since Gagot v'chatzirot Reshut Echad, since Gagim v'chatzirot, they're all one Reshut, right? It's all one thing, right? So he says over here, right? Karpefot Reshut Echaten. And then it says over here, Kagiv v'chatzirot Reshut Echad, v'karpefot Reshut Echaten. They're all one thing. So according to Rabbi Shimon, Kulan Reshut Echaten. Everything's the same. So here again, one more time, just to understand, this is a gag, the roof. This is a karpaf.
What picture is that number?
971. 971 on the side you have the karpaf, the place where you have the wood, the mavui. Here's the courtyards, the zachsadra, the trellis, the pergolas, whatever you want to call it, the mipeset, the balconies, and the gag. So here, what we're trying to say is, oh no, that's the next picture already. So basically what we're trying to say is, according to Shitat Rabbi Shimon, gagot chatzerot kapifot is all one reshut. So you're allowed to carry between one another, there's no problem. According to Chachamim, kagin v'chatzerot is one reshut, and the kapifot, right, are one kapaf to another kapaf is good, but you cannot do from the gag to the karpaf or the opposite. Okay? And according to Shitat Rabbi Meir, they're all separate, but they're all together with. So that means one kapaf to another kapaf, one chatzer to another chatzer, one gag to another gag, but you cannot interchange.
Even if they're owned by one person.
Yes. Have a wonderful Shabbat Shalom. Have a wonderful day, everyone.
Thank you, Rav. Thank you very much.